8 months. 8 months is how far away we are from Grand Theft Auto 6. We are in the year of GTA 6, and as I said at the very beginning of the year, we were going to be diving more into the story of Grand Theft Auto, not just 6, but the previous entries as well. And today, we're going to be taking a step back even further and looking at ALL of Rockstar, because Rockstar, and Grand Theft Auto specifically, is not afraid of controversy. And in fact, I will go even further than that, because not just Grand Theft Auto, but Rockstar as a company was birthed in controversy. And if you don't know what I'm talking about today, I'm going to tell you a story of how Rockstar would never be what it is today if it wasn't for one man and the controversy behind it. And on top of that, almost every game since then, they've manufactured controversy on purpose to build the popularity of their games, the popularity of Rockstar, and create the behemoth that this year is going to be GTA. But first, you need to understand one thing: the birth of the controversy. So the year was 1996 or 1997, and there was a company by the name of BMG. They were a music group, and they decided to make a subsidiary by the name of BMG Interactive. Now, this subsidiary would specifically work on video games. It was a growing industry, and all the while BMG wanted to get into movies, it was cheaper to get into video games. The thing with video games is at the time, they didn't make millions when released, they made thousands. So they were constantly working with developers to try to find a new developer to work underneath one. And at one point, they found one by the name of DMA Designs, who had a successful game in 1991 by the name of Lemmings. But they were working on something new. It was a game called Race and Chase, and it was quite literally the opposite of GTA. You played as a police officer, you had to follow laws, and because of this, it was incredibly boring. Now, at the time, two brothers were working at BMG Interactive, Sam and Dan Hauser, and growing up, they had a dream. They wanted to be gangsters. Of course, they didn't want to break the law, and they also loved video games. And when Sam Hauser saw Race and Chase, he had a vision to take this game and transform it from a police game to a gangster game, where you would be able to run from the police, run over people, murder the police, and many things along those lines. And this would create what we know today as Grand Theft Auto. But the problem is they were taking a game that already existed and already sucked. The gameplay elements weren't great, the graphics weren't great, it didn't play very well, but the idea was really, really cool. So they needed to sell this somehow. And that's when the people at BMG reached for their phone and called a man by the name of Max Clifford. So here's the thing, Rockstar and GTA likely wouldn't have been successful if it wasn't for this man. Yet on Rockstar's pages, websites, even Wikipedia pages, Max Clifford is nowhere to be found. Yet he's instrumentally important, and the reason why he can't be found is, well, this guy is just straight up evil. In 2014, he got convicted of many accounts of sexual assault on women and girls between the age of 14 to 19. Like I said, evil. In 2017, he died in prison from what they are calling was a heart attack.
You gonna rot in hell for this.
You'll die in the gulag with the rest of the Russian rats.
So, evil dude, but his job before convicted of all of this was a publicist, specifically working in the European tabloids, and he was damn good at his job. You see, Max Clifford didn't just go straight to the tabloids, he leaked something specifically to someone inside the House of Lords. Now basically this is a part of the British Parliament where a bunch of elderly people get in a room and scream at each other over policies. You guys probably know that I'm Canadian, we have something similar to this too, it's just as weird here. But on this particular day, Max Clifford would leak one piece of information. So what happened is in May of 1997, when when Grand Theft Auto was brought up in Parliament, someone by the name of Lord Campbell received some information behind the scenes, and he asked a simple question. Is it true that Grand Theft Auto includes thefts of cars, running from the police, joyriding, and even attacking the police? And is it true that children will be able to buy this game without any problems? And right after that hit the British Parliament, the news went wild. Keep in mind, back then, a lot of the news was through newspapers, so the Daily Mail had a title called Criminal Computer Game that glorifies hit-and-run thugs. Others were literally just titled Ban Criminal Video Game, and just like that, Max Clifford's plan was complete. By leaking this to the Parliament, everything fell into place. This was his plan from the very beginning. And when the game launched, it actually launched with relatively slow sales, but week after week, those numbers picked up, the opposite of traditionally what happens with video games now. And partially it was because what Clifford did after launch. You see, during launch, as the games were going out to warehouses, he completely constructed a false story that people broke into a warehouse and stole 10,000 copies of GTA. That simply didn't happen, but guess what? Every news report reported that it did, making more people wanting to get their hands on it. Similarly, one of the developers at DMA scraped their car. It was a small car accident, and guess what? They reported on it in the news saying that a sick car game boss, those were the words that they used, should be banned from driving. He was barely even in an accident, but this is exactly what Clifford wanted, and it worked. This game sold over 1 million copies. It took a while, but it completely worked. And this was just the beginning of Rockstar. And this is when Rockstar realized any news about their game was good news, and even bad news would actually make more people want to play it. And from here, there would be even more controversy. Now, what's crazy is that all of that controversy we just talked about was basically when GTA was still in 2D. And after this, they would move to 3D and everything would get a little more real. You see, in 2001, GTA and Rockstar made the jump into 3D, making this massive open world sandbox in an area that they called Liberty Cities, aka their version of New York. Now, with this game moving into this open sandbox, everything would double down. The game was more gory, more graphic. Because it was open world, you could do things the way that you wanted them. Now, the other crazy thing about this time is that the next game, GTA Vice Cities, was released just 1 year later in 2002. And with the games coming out so quickly, more eyes were on them. And one specific set of eyes went by the name of Jack Thompson. Now, he was an attorney that was specifically against violent video games, with Grand Theft Auto being able to quite literally do any crime you want to, and often being kind of focused towards civilians. He was worried about this, specifically using the line of "think of the children" as his way of getting at it. And we're gonna hear a little bit more from Jack Thompson when it comes to some of Rockstar's other games, but I think it's important to know how crazy this man is. First of all, eventually ends up getting disbarred. We'll get to that. But in 2016, he sent a letter to Midway Games about the Mortal Kombat series, saying specifically about Mortal Kombat Armageddon that they put him in the game using his likeness. Well, turns out that was just character creation. So yeah, I think that pretty much explains who this guy is. But I think the important part about this is that Jack Thompson had some connections with the news, so would often get interviewed about violent video games, and specifically GTA Vice Cities, bringing it directly into the limelight.
And every bullying expert who's aware of this game has predicted that this game will lead to real-world violence in schools.
So let's get into some actual controversy about GTA Vice Cities. At one point, a group known as the Haitian American Council was directly against this game, because throughout GTA Vice Cities, one of the groups that you are fighting against is the Haitians, and they specifically used that term, which was termed derogatory. So for example, you would get an objective that would be kill all the Haitians on the boats. This, they said, was inappropriate, and eventually they removed that term from the game in the subtitles and simply replaced it with gangsters. And oh, you thought this game was bad? Check out this one.
James Earl Cash, found guilty and sentenced to death, has been on death row for the past 3 years and was executed last night.
Just to be clear, this is one of the craziest games that ever existed. You play as a character by the name of James Earl Cash. The story starts out that you are a death row inmate who's about to get the lethal injection. However, you don't get the lethal injection. You only get sedated, and your character wakes up to someone known as the director. You are now forced to perform in 20 levels, or as in this game they call them, 20 scenes of a snuff film, where in each one you have to take out leading members of a gang, and you do so in a way of these like brutal executions. So that already stirred up some controversy with how gory and graphic the game actually was, but this was taken to the next level. You see, it was at this time where a murder took place. A murderer by the name of Warren LeBlanc killed a 14-year-old teenager with a claw hammer. Reportedly, this was over a $75 dispute, but when they were kind of detectiving this case, they went into his bedroom, and in Warren LeBlanc's bedroom, they found a copy of Manhunt. And of course, the media went wild with this, blaming the game for the murder itself. Of course, just making the game more popular. So popular, in fact, they made a second one. Now, when this game was first released, immediately we realized that Rockstar was not afraid of controversy. They doubled down on everything in this one, to the point where it was forced to be given the rating of AO, and because of that, it couldn't be released on consoles. So they made two versions, one that was rated AO and another one that was rated M that they had to censor a bit. Now, what's interesting is that even though this game was so controversial, they still released it on the Nintendo Wii. And because the Wii had motion controls, people said this about Manhunt 2.
Here's the Wii, for example. Players are required to act out murder, stabbings, even torture and strangulation, all with this little thing. So you kind of have to imagine.
I don't know exactly what she was doing with her hands there, but I think you can see how the media portrayed Manhunt 2. And of course, because of this, it just got a larger and larger cult following. But that's not the only game that did this whatsoever. Let's go back to GTA for a second. Does anybody want some hot coffee? Yes, you may not remember this one, or you may very explicitly. This is what is called the hot coffee mod. Now, just to be quite frank, we can't show you this without like blurring it or putting something over it because it's literally that explicit. But there's a little bit of backstory behind this one. You see, when San Andreas came out, the game was fine. People said, yeah, maybe it was a little too gory or you could do some nefarious acts, but eventually someone started going through all of the lines of code and found a sexually explicit mini game that you could basically make CJ, the main character of the game, get into the act, and yeah, it's a mini game for it. But here's what's interesting about this is once this came out, someone released a patch for the game, a mod, if you will, that unlocked this mini game and unlocked this act inside of the game. Well, Sam Houser and Rockstar immediately clapped back and said, hey, this wasn't us. This was a modder that created this.
Oh no, bro. Not me.
It very quickly came out that this was absolutely not the case, that it was in the game from the very beginning, and eventually Rockstar would have to patch it themselves completely out of the PC and console versions of the game. Now, the reason why they had to do that is because they were threatened with switching this game to the AO signature, which meant a lot of retailers, almost all of them, wouldn't be able to sell the game. Now, of all people who would eventually come to fight against this one, it would of course be Hillary Clinton. Now, this story takes a little bit of a turn. Basically, she would end up creating a group that every single year would have to go through and inspect these games and would basically be against violent and explicit video games. We know how all of that went. Well, Rockstar, again, didn't seem to really care, because eventually in GTA 4, on the Statue of Freedom or Statue of Liberty, it seems as though they put Hillary Clinton's face holding a cup of hot coffee. If you haven't realized by now, it's not that Rockstar doesn't mind the controversy, it's rather that they lean directly into it, using it for their benefit, like they had from the very beginning. Another really great example of this is another game that they came out with in the year 2005 by the name of Bully. Now, Bully was akin to Grand Theft Auto, but this time you played as a teenager going through high school at a prep school or a boarding school, if you will. Now, personally, this is the controversy that I remember the most. Back in the day, I remember this being all over the news.
Violent video game, it is called Bully. Protesters say the game is anything but child's play.
Violent games to children.
Kids, how to take violent revenge out on fellow students and teachers.
It desensitizes them and makes them think that these acts are all right. It's all right to whoop a woman.
The big thing with Bully being in the news is they basically said that this was a gateway drug to get kids into not only Bully, but the Grand Theft Auto universe, not to mention disrespecting teachers, classmates, and promoting actually being a bully. Not to mention that this had a T for teen rating, like I said, bringing people into the Rockstar ecosystem to push them towards an even further life of crime in Grand Theft Auto. And guess who would fight against this one? Once again, the lawyer Jack Thompson. The quote that he has is, "What you are in effect doing is rehearsing your physical revenge and violence against those whom you have victimized. And then you, like the two guys from Columbine, become the ultimate bully." Just to be clear, there isn't even any guns technically in Bully. Now, as I mentioned, it would be about 3 years after this that Jack Thompson would be eventually completely disbarred for a pattern of unprofessional misconduct, including filing false, malicious, and scandalous allegations in court, making rude and threatening comments to the opposing counsel and judges, and failing to adhere to court orders. One of which is he refused to accept the fact that he got disbarred and fought his disbarred and got disbarred again. No, I'm not even kidding. Anyway, needless to say, all of this that Jack Thompson did, if anything, just promoted these games even more. So up until this point, we have had the 2D universe, and then we had their games that were in 3D, but imagine being able to do all of this in HD. Welcome to GTA 4, aka we're back in Liberty City again. Now, this is essentially the same sort of games cranked up to 11. This time you're in HD with all of the same killing, car thievery, and cruelty against cops, but this time in 1080p. So really from GTA 4, there came two big controversies. One started with someone by the name of Devin Moore, someone who was arrested and brought into a police station in Alabama, stole a police officer's service pistol, and then murdered 3 law enforcement officers. They believed that the only reason why he did this is because he could also do it in GTA 4. This sparked more lawsuits, not only between Take-Two, Rockstar, but also vendors like Walmart and Best Buy who actually sold the game. Now, nothing really ever came of these style lawsuits similar to Jack Thompson, mainly because they just used free speech to back up what these games truly were. So nothing came of that, but what actually had a bigger controversy was the fact that in these games, you could actually drink and drive. Now, this got the attention of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but really nothing came of this, kind of like when PETA gets involved with video games as well. Now, speaking of strange controversies, over the past few years, Rockstar Games have kind of got away from the media trying to ban their games or anything like that. Maybe the lawyers have started to get wise and say, hey, we're actually just helping these companies out. But now the kind of controversy has kind of gone internal. You see, with GTA 5, when it got released, the biggest thing in that game had to be GTA Online. And with this game, what they introduced was microtransactions. With their new form of microtransactions known as shark cards, this was kind of the largest controversy at the time. It wasn't about who you're murdering or the cops you're killing. It was specifically about the money that you were spending on the game, but albeit not a huge controversy overall, and now reporting for over 60% of their incoming revenue. And then when Red Dead Redemption 2 came around, it wasn't about the online portion of the game, it was actually about the developers themselves, reporting an immense amount of crunch culture before the launch of their games, reporting 100+ hour weeks with very little bonuses or overtime actually being paid to the developers. This started a huge conversation amongst the entire games industry as other developers outside of Rockstar started to come forward and say this is actually extremely commonplace across the entirety of the video game industry. And then we move forward to present day, which now we're talking about GTA 6, and we're only at the beginning of the controversies that are going to be caused by this game. But let's just go through a few that have already happened. Number one, a bunch of employees got laid off at the studio. Some people reported that these employees got laid off for union busting, that they were trying to make a union at Rockstar. The higher-ups weren't allowing that, so they got fired. Meanwhile, the higher-ups at Rockstar stated that these were actually leaks and kind of gave the receipts for employees that they fired for leaks. These backed up some of the leaks that we have heard over the previous 3 years, like one, for example, that Lucia might actually have a daughter. This was a leak that someone got fired for. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is mad because they think Rockstar is union busting. But that is just one. Even before the game has been released, another thing that we already know is that this game is going to have strip clubs, but not just female strip clubs, male strip clubs as well, because now GTA is about equality. But here's the thing. Not everywhere in the world is. So already GTA 6 is reportedly getting banned in places like Russia, not because of the female strip clubs, but because those men cannot be wearing G-strings. So as you can see, Rockstar began in controversy, and every single year and every single game that they released after that, they have used that controversy in every single situation to have the game build popularity, have the game grow. Even in the circumstance of Red Dead Redemption, where it wasn't actually about what was in the game, it was about the people making it. But guess what? Everyone wanted to see what all of these developers were spending 100+ hours a week working on. It turned out it was an absolute masterpiece. And I don't think as we move into GTA 6, the situation is going to be any different. Even though this game is already going to launch being the top-selling media IP of all time, I still believe they're going to be using that controversy to sell this game even more. And guess what? Recently, Strauss Zelnick, head of Take-Two, has already said the marketing is going to begin this summer. And guess how the marketing began all those years ago? In controversy. Only time will tell if history is going to repeat itself once again.